What is going on? I want to welcome you from Half Court for today, Wednesday, October 18th, 2023. I'm one of your host, Sean Murphy, alongside from the dungeon, Jeff Iafrady. Jeff joining us from Mid-World of Warcraft raid has his Mountain Dew with double XP cracked open right next to him. Jeff, how's it going, my friend?
Good. Yeah, I'm in the depths of the dungeon right now. No light. You know what? Piston season hasn't started. Can't pay my bills, and here we are. I'm excited to be with you guys, man. I'm excited.
Yeah, man. I mean, gosh, is everything okay? We went from the mansion to now the light. We can't even get the lights on anymore, Jeff.
It's quite the character arc. I mean, we
it
started.
Is. What other podcast can you watch someone's financial struggles in real time?
Nowhere else. Nowhere else.
It's good to have you here, man. For real, it's good to see you. I'm glad you're feeling better too. When oh my gosh, dude, like wisdom teeth stuff is just freaking brutal.
Yeah, still did the morning show, man. My teeth were killing me, and you were the only person that could relate to me. A lot of people I was talking to, you're like, dude, I know exactly what you're going through, and it sucked all week. But baby, we're getting them out soon, though. Wisdom teeth have to. I've been putting it off for too long.
Well, and especially when your job is to talk.
Yeah.
Like that makes it a little bit more brutal too. Yeah. You know what I mean? Just a different level. Different level.
Only so much ibuprofen can help. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. 100%. Speaking of something that only so much ibuprofen can help, our other host is the man, the myth, the legend, the Marquette Eat coming from that seat. The man, the myth, the legend. Troy, good to see you as always, my friend.
Good to see you too. Never thought that I would be compared to ibuprofen, but here we are in October 2023, and now I know how you feel of me, Sean.
Hey, I never said that the segues that I came up with on the spot were always going to make sense, okay? That was never in the contract. If it is, go find it, because I'm telling you, you won't. But guys, we have a lot to talk about. It's a packed show. We finally have like quite a bit of basketball to talk about, actually. And, from this point, we're about we're 8 days away as of recording from when the season starts. So before we talk about, because there's some things that have happened since this podcast. And an elephant in the room, so to speak, that we might want to get to in a second. But guys, before we do all that, let's do a little bit of a vibe check. Now that we've had like a couple preseason games, we've been able to hear Monty Williams a little bit more. We're starting to see kind of where the lineup's trending and what decisions are probably going to have to be made, like heading out of training camp. How are you guys feeling going into next Wednesday? Where are you at as far as your overall mood and overall feelings about this team currently?
I'm excited. I really am. I know people started freaking out about the whole Jaden Ivey stuff, which that was interesting. I know, Sean, you were seeing it all over Twitter too. But for me, it hasn't changed. This is kind of the feeling out period for Monty, right? You're trying to figure out, at least for him, and he mentioned it multiple times, and Kool-Aid's been doing a great job covering it all. And now you're down there, Sean, so you'll have opportunities to cover it. But Monty speaking about, testing these guys. Yeah, you. Like, that's a Sean bomb. Shout out to the guy who commented that, by the way. Yeah, he is Woj. Anyway. But this is the period where Monty's just figuring things out. He's going to test these guys, and the whole Ivy coming off the bench. And I'm not going to overreact. I'm still excited. I'm excited for a lot of reasons. You got Cade frickin' Cunningham fully healthy. You got Ivy in a second year. Even if he is coming off the bench, who gives a damn? He's still a terrific player. You got a SARS rookie. Like, there's so many storylines going into the season. Like, people can fight over whatever they want to fight about, Sean. It doesn't change anything for me. I'm locked in. I'm ready, man. I'm fired up to see these young guys. I really am. Under a really good coach.
Can I just say, I think, and again, I understand that there are some certain things, like I'm not saying that the starting lineup means nothing, but can I just say that is something that we put way too much weight into, partially in my opinion, because it protects the egos of the guys that are on the court, because none of these players that come into the NBA, if you think about it, ever sat on the bench as a child or came off the bench in the teams that they were on in their youth. And so, for me, it's like naturally like the talent in the amount of, competition is thicker. So like, these things are more likely to happen in the NBA. But I do think with Jaden Ivey as well, the thing that we did talk about, going into the season was, the amount of guards that this team has, the amount of talent. There is a lot of talent, but it's how are they going to fit it together? How is it going to piece together? Right. And I mean, Troy, I think, if anything, I think that's just the prime example of the ways that Monty is experimenting with it. But but just because Jaden Ivey isn't going to start doesn't mean that he's not going to get starter minutes. Right.
Right. Not just that too, Sean, but it's not to say either that he's not going to finish games, because I think he is going to finish games. I think he's going to be a guy who's going to be a closer. I think he's a guy that's going to be able to hit big shots in the fourth quarter during close games. And even just I wanted to touch on the last preseason game in Montreal against the Thunder. We came back from 20 plus down to win the game. Yep. I mean, that shows that this team has grit too, that they're working how to play together. Monty is coaching them till the buzzer. And I think that's important too to look at, of that this team won't stop fighting, no matter if they're 15 points down, 20 points down, 5 points down, 5 points up. They will always fight to the buzzer. And that wasn't true for every Pistons team of the past 10 years, as we both know.
It was not.
So to see that with this team, exciting.
Yeah, and to kind of go off that too, Sean and Troy, the thing that impressed me the most with Ivy, and you nailed it, Sean, by saying most of these guys in the NBA have never came off the bench going up into college and then, of course, getting in the NBA. So everyone wants to start. I get that. But the most important thing, and you guys nailed it, who's finishing a ball game? How many minutes is he playing? And who's to say he can't start when the season's over or any point in the season? So people just take this and run with it. Monty nailed it. You're not playing significant minutes if you can't defend. Obviously, shooting, it matters as well. But the whole thing with Jaden, like the guy shot 37% on catch and shoot threes. Like it's not like he's inept or he can't shoot at all. Wherever Monty sees fit for these guys, I'm cool with it. But to say should we be worried that Ivy's not starting and the season hasn't even started yet? Talk about overreaction. It did get a little ridiculous.
Right. And I mean, listen, the reality of it is this, Monty, has said from the very beginning that the guys that that he's going to reward on the court and the players that he wants, on the court are going to be the ones, that make plays on the defensive end. Yep. You talk about the lineup that starts the game. I mean, guys, let's just call it the way it is. In that department on this team, Ausar Thompson for 2 preseason games is already the best defensive player on this team.
No question.
Already. Like, he hasn't played in a real NBA game yet. But if you're rewarding that side of the ball, you have to reward Ausar Thompson with that. Troy, you were saying something?
Yeah, I was going to say, rewarding that side of the ball still doesn't disclude Ivy, right? Just because if he's not starting doesn't mean that Monty doesn't see that potential in him. Because as we said, he's going to close games. He's going to play heavy starter minutes. So it's not that, Monty Williams is benching Jaden or anything like that. No, he's rewarding him in a different way, which may mean sacrificing not starting, but still means he's going to reward him by playing massive minutes, get massive touches on the offensive end.
It's the Tyler Hero role, right?
Bingo.
Yeah, but here's the thing though, and to Troy's points, you're talking about Ivy, like people and we have 1 year of Ivy with a heavy offensive workload on top of him. So for judging him and how he is defensively, I don't think is fair. I mean, you can't teach 6'4" with his wingspan. I mean, there's a lot, the athleticism he has. Like, so even jumping to the conclusion saying like, man, Jaden Ivey's not a great defender. He wasn't last year, but who's to say with more talent, less of an offensive workload, he can conserve energy for the other side of the court. I think Ivy can still be a great defender and still be a really good shot blocker at the 2-guard spot. So, I mean, I still have faith that, remember when Troy drafted him, he said, listen, man, you're going to have to defend if you're going to be a Piston. He took that challenge. Just judging off his rookie year, I've seen that too. Like maybe he's not the defender that we all thought he was. Guys, I mean, come on. You watched last season. The guy had everything on top of him offensively. Of course, defensively was going to take a hit for Jaden Ivey. This year, though, and moving forward, I think we haven't seen the best of him defensively, not even close.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, the funny thing to me, it's particularly telling how much, Ausar, like how much they like Ausar, just how much they value having him on the court. You guys remember how many minutes he played in the first preseason game? 38. And they asked Monty about it after the first preseason game. You know what he said? He said that he didn't realize that he was playing Ausar that many minutes. He just was that valuable to have out on the court. It was doing that much to contribute. And, and I totally agree with you that, like that Jaden Ivey, he's more than shown that he can be really good on the defensive end. That was probably, that was definitely his weak point last year. And there were points towards the beginning of the year, and Jaden Ivey said this himself, where he feels like that it costs them games at certain stretches, right? So I think that, like the nice thing about, the fact that he's in his second year and that you have all these guys that are super young and developing together is that you don't have that pressure to have to, put them in a position to fail, right? Like you can have Ivy, be in a role where, and by the way, talk about having a burst of energy come off the bench, probably arguably the fastest player in the NBA coming off the bench, as your sixth man, a guy who can put up 20 points on any given night easily, who looks like he can, it really, to me, the only things that need to happen in order for him to enter that starting lineup with Ausar and Cade, for them to really be able to deploy that lineup on a regular basis is Ivy and Ausar just proving the floor spacing and Ivy showing that he can consistently stay in front of defenders. Like at that point, that's going to be the starting five, in my opinion. But until then, I think Ivy can just, use it as an opportunity to, really change the tone of the game once he comes off the bench. And on top of that, he uses it as an opportunity to develop and work hard, which, I mean, listen, we all know he's going to, and just through 2 games already, you can just tell Monty and his staff are very intentional about walking these guys along, about when things happen, bringing players over. When they get off the bench, they like Ivy and Cade, they'll sit next to the coaching staff. Like the development is happening in real time. And, that's why they're there.
Right. And imagine, to your point too, Sean, you said you don't, imagine you have Ivy coming off the bench. Wouldn't you want him going against other teams' second unit on the offensive end, and then having their second unit try to guard and stay in front of, quote unquote, one of the quickest players in the NBA? Yep. I mean, that sounds fun. That sounds like points racking up real quick to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, and to your point, Sean, about Ausar Thompson, like this dude, and you nailed it, he's your best perimeter defender as a rookie, but you need him in the starting lineup. Like there's no negotiations there. You need him to take on, the opposing team's best offensive player. That's going to alleviate, again, to my point earlier about Ivy, alleviate pressure off Cade and, of course, Ivy. So, yeah, there's no way, even since day one, I know people, propose the idea, could he come off the bench? Like, dude, there's no way this man is coming off the bench, especially playing 30 minutes in a preseason game. Like they see the defensive potential, the shot and all that stuff. We'll address that later, but yeah, no doubt.
We talked about it, and we talked about it on this pod for quite a bit. And I think the consensus that we had for a while was Ausar was only going to play and was only going to start if he proved without a shadow of a doubt that he needed to start. And what did he do? Right away in training camp, proved without a shadow of a doubt that this dude needs to start. It only took him 2 quarters of guarding Devin Booker to show why he needs to be on the court for this team.
Yeah, he could guard 1 through 4. He's an all defensive team type of guy. That's his potential. So yeah, no doubt with that. No doubt.
And you know what? He only needs a little more muscle to make some 5s uncomfortable too, realistically. So that's pretty terrifying. So overall, the interesting thing as well, because Jeff, the cat is out of the bag, as you mentioned a minute ago. I had the opportunity, as of this recording, over the weekend. I actually got to attend the open practice, not as a fan, mind you, but I actually got to attend as credentialed media. It was a really surreal experience. Super grateful to you guys for helping me get to this point. Obviously, very few people get into an NBA media room, let alone people that are technically independent journalists. So that is an honor that I will absolutely appreciate a ton. And the good news is that this is not the last. So I thank the Pistons organization for that. But we had the opportunity to sit in on the press conference after, and got to listen to Monty talk. And he was asked about now that we're a little bit through training camp, what he sees the rotation looking like and how it's going to shake out. And, from what he was saying, it's sounding realistically like, he's looking to go about 10 deep, with this team going into the season. Right. And I mean, if you look at, some of the quality of play from the likes of Killian Hayes, if you look at, the flashes of potential that Marcus Sasser shows and the energy that he plays with, like Monte Morris, the skills that he possesses as a backup, as a backup guard, like Alec Burks and Bojan Bogdanovic, both, are both players that can command minutes. Like the reality of it is like they almost have a good problem in the sense that they're going to have a tough time whittling it down to 10 when you talk about getting players into the rotation and getting the minutes.
Did you see that? And I don't know what outlet it was, but it might have been Yahoo, the proposal to trade Alec Burks. And I don't want to say it's Yahoo. It's somebody. I just saw it. And it was they were reporting on Houston trading away Kevin Porter Jr. And they also proposed the idea that Houston and Detroit, I don't even know if this is a true report, but it was
Jake
on
Fisher.
Yes.
Houston has touched base with Detroit on a deal sending Victor Oladipo to Detroit for Alec Burks. Why? I mean, I'm sure Houston wants to do that deal.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure Houston would love to do that deal.
Offensive asset, right? You wouldn't want
absolutely. I mean, shot creating ability. He's a 40% 3-point shooter. Buckets. Yeah, buckets. Yeah. But you're right, Sean. There's a lot of depth. I mean, even they got Joe Harris, like Monty Morris, like Marcus Sasser can't. I don't think I've seen him miss once in practice. I don't know what the hell's going on with him. There's so many guys here. That's a good problem to have. But I'm curious which way they go. Like, for example, Killian Hayes, who, I don't know. And I know we fall for this, but Killian has shown, at least, and I'm talking to Kool-Aid about this, there is some improvement in areas where Killian needed to improve. Now, we'll see how it plays out. But there's a lot of guys here, Sean and Troy, that need minutes. I'm curious how Monty handles it all. Who gets squeezed out of the rotation?
And obviously I don't want to minimize, the Killian that we've seen right now because I do believe it to be legitimate. I do think that, that he has gotten better. But I do feel that I wouldn't be being honest if I didn't point out that he did have a pretty darn good preseason at this point last year too. And we were talking about, man, Killian's looking comfortable. He looks like he can really take it into next gear this season. And then we went to opening night and it was like, wait, Killian's on the floor? Honestly, I'm not saying that that's going to happen going into the season just because that's what happened last year. Because, if you look statistically, he did still end up being significantly better last year than he was, the first 2 years of his career. But, to your point, like, I mean, if Killian keeps making some of the plays that he's making in preseason, without a doubt, he's showing that he deserves to be on the court, at least 20 minutes a game.
Yeah. I still believe Marcus Sasser, that man, he's the backup point guard of the future. He is I like Marcus Sasser a lot. I know Monty's on an expiring deal, right? I think he has an expiring deal. I know Joe does. So I'm curious for the Sasser storyline. That's another one. How he trends, because I think they got a good one on Marcus Sasser. I like him a lot.
Yeah, for sure. I think so too. And I think overall, we've been kind of talking about like, what this team, is going to look like and what they're going to have to do in order to, turn the corner and like what players will be here in the future, what players won't. Like, I think, especially, as the season goes on, like I don't think it's going to take long for us to really just start get some solid questions really answered about this group. It does seem like it does feel like one thing I do feel is, it does seem more and more like Marvin Bagley's probably going to win that backup big position. It's kind of looking, like as it's going on, like barring health, like he's just looked at like the better big through the first couple of games, but I know people also are seeing that Sadiq Bey had one good preseason game in Atlanta and are immediately saying, well, yep, see, we did it again. We screwed up. Troy went and, did what the Pistons always do. But, I
was there last night, Sean. I saw it firsthand in person. It was impressive, but Are we going to pay him that much?
Yeah, God, Lions fans do this with DeAndre Swift. Credit to him. Are you going to pay him?
Right.
No. Like there's the answer right there. There's not
Right.
even any more dialogue needed. Like,
Right. Well, because just like the Lions are plenty happy to have David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs, the Pistons are plenty happy to have Ausar Thompson, are plenty happy to have Bojan Bogdanovic, are plenty happy to have Alec Burks, even though like Jameis Winston. I mean James Wiseman, not Jameis Winston. My God, I was thinking of guys who didn't live up to their draft potential, and
there's
those two guys. Yeah. Yep, got those guys mixed up. My bad. But Wiseman didn't steal any crab legs, though. We got to give him that credit. He did not steal any crab legs from a local supermarket.
No, he did not.
Nope, that is not on his resume. But if he were to have hit as a prospect, undeniably, that move would have been a grand slam. At the same time, with the way that we're seeing the salary cap and the league heading, as far as as we've talked about with the new collective bargaining agreement and how strict the salary cap is going to be, you cannot, afford to have, players that you're going to be overpaying, especially, if you want to have players around, around Cade and Ausar and, all these other guys. Right. So,
yep.
Overall, I just think there's, a lot of really good things. A really cool thing as well. And I feel, Troy was like, Sean, put this on a channel. I am Troy, actually, right now. Ausar Thompson, I actually got to ask him, about, like the potential that they're seeing as a team and, how things are going. And so here's that.
It's only been a couple of weeks of training camp so far, but are you starting to see those flashes of potential and those things that excite you about what you guys can build potentially together in Detroit?
Yeah, definitely. When I watch film, like obviously not every play, training camp was a week ago. There would be like some plays I see, and I'm like, we went over that in practice. Like the ball is moving very fast, defensive rotations are like just on point, and makes me. It's funny because it makes me feel like a coach because I'm like, is this what the coaches? Because they see every little thing, like they see every little thing that you like. So, you don't think you do something perfect.
Really cool guy. Really
one
cool
of the most
guy.
polite human beings. I mean, like,
yeah,
great guy.
Yeah, yeah. When me and Ausar first made our eye contact, in my head, I was just like, holy. But no, honestly, it was a super cool thing. So, he was really, really engaging. I mean, yeah, I think, the thing that it has been very apparent through the first two games, albeit only being the preseason, I think the identity of what this team can be and what they're looking for. Like, I think through the first two preseason games, it's the most clear I've seen the on-court vision of this team being built in the image of the Detroit Pistons in the time of the restoration. Like, especially now adding a guy like Ausar into the mix, who just ups the intensity, ups the pace, just does those physical, gritty things on the defensive side of the ball. Like, I truly think that they are primed, to be in a position where they really take a next step and we really start getting some more buzz and excitement about this team. And there already is a good amount of buzz and excitement about this team. There were a ton of people that showed up to that open practice on Sunday. So, yeah, man, I think there's still a lot of reasons to be optimistic. But, go ahead, Jeff.
No, I was just going to say, I mean, to your point about Ausar, it's, when we've seen the Pistons at their peak, or when there has been success for the Pistons, it starts on the defensive side of the ball, at least for guys like Ausar. It feels like that's been the ideology for Troy drafting guys. I mean, you got Jaden Ivey, who, again, to our point earlier, still think he could be a much, much better defender. He has all the physical traits. And then you draft Ausar, who's, day one, your best perimeter defender. So, again, Troy gets it. And I think Ausar, to your point, Sean, he's like, image wise, like he's what the Pistons needed, but also he is exactly what the Pistons have had. Those type of players when they've had success. I think offensively, I mean, dude, we could talk all day. He's a forward, but he has guard qualities as well. I mean, the shooting is one thing, but his playmaking, his rebound, like he's doing everything. And him and Cade Cunningham together, man, it's special. Even when Jaden eventually gets in that lineup, multiple guys who can make plays with the basketball. That's it.
Amen and Ausar Thompson are going to be absolute stars for years to come in this league.
Yep.
I know that the focus in this draft was that top 3 of Vic, Scoot, and Brandon Miller. And absolutely all those guys except, Brandon Miller absolutely deserved, to be in that spotlight, in that echelon, to have that, to have that prowess. And also there was Brandon Miller. But, on top of that,
Dude, Anderson looks pretty good.
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. It's really more so making fun of the Hornets. So we'll get to trashing them in a little bit. Believe me. I know people talk about, like Brandon, Vic, and and Scoot, and they look, at those guys and even Chet as like the most exciting rookies about like what they can do. But I mean, man, through 2 preseason games, through summer league, of what we've already been able to see, with Ausar, in a Pistons uniform, but also, I mean, the stretches of what we've seen, with Amen in a Rockets uniform. You know what I mean? Like they both are, just have all the qualities, to be a star. And I think Ausar in particular, be able to play alongside Cade Cunningham. I mean, guys, the defensive potential of that jumbo backcourt to start the season, I think those guys can really cause a lot of issues defensively. Like I'm excited, to see how this team looks, especially, like night 1 going into Miami. I think it's going to be a really, I think that's going to be like a really challenging test, going into the season. So yeah, man, I mean, I think the picture is starting to get clearer and clearer. And I mean, guys, it is, we are at the time of regular season basketball. Like the time for questions is almost over.
Yeah. I'm just excited to see what kind of impact Monty makes. I mean, we've seen it in the offseason, but once the regular season starts, that's what I'm going to be watching out for. Because I think we know he's a great coach. He's one of the best coaches in the NBA, but I'm curious what kind of impact that has. And I don't think it has anything to do with, any, bad blood with Dwayne. I love Dwayne Casey as a human being. I love him. But I'm curious what kind of impact Monty has for this team. Because we talk about expectations, 30 wins, 35 wins. I've heard even higher than that, but I'm curious for the Monty Williams storyline. Because I think day 1, we've seen the impact, but in the regular season, a guy like that, I don't know how many wins he adds, but I know it's significant enough. I mean, he's the highest paid coach in the NBA, so I'm curious for that.
Yeah,
hell of a coach.
Oh, 100%, 100%. And by the way, I can speak to this now. There's an aura when that man walks into a room.
Yeah,
like the entire energy just shifts when that man walks into a room. Like when he's talking, you pay attention.
Mm-hmm. It's that soft, like kind of like that Jim Caldwell. When he has that soft voice, but when he speaks, everyone listens. Like that's, you might have to like, what do you say? You might have to lean in a little bit, but yeah, you're right, Sean. Demands respect. Leader of men. As people would say.
Yep. 1000%. Guys, the preseason's been pretty nuts. Like just full stop. It is like some of the basketball, the quality of hoops that we have gotten, and granted, maybe some of this is just, a junkie finally getting some product again and, overhyping what he's getting. But, overall, guys, I don't think I could have been much happier with the preseason that we've gotten thus far, as far as the quality of games, the quality of basketball we've gotten. There are so many different directions that we could take this as far as guys that we want to talk about. I'll let you guys, like, who do you guys want to talk about first? Who stood out to you in the preseason? Like what have you seen that's just made you, blow your mind? Like what's exciting you guys as basketball fans?
Can I just break the ice quick? Because I'll let Troy go, and then I got a little, an actual one we could talk about, like a sleeper. But can we just talk about Victor Wembanyama? Like what?
Oh my God,
this man is going to haunt the NBA for a long time. When you watch him play, he looks like a 2K created player, and he really doesn't have any weaknesses. And
watching him do guard moves with the basketball, like a little step back jumper after, doing a little crossover between the legs, step back jumper, nothing but net, looking like a guard at 7'4" with an 8-foot wingspan.
It brought a tear to my eye. It did. Watching this man play basketball, it was It was incredible. The Spurs got themselves another, long 15-year career, potentially Hall of Fame. We'll see how it trends, but they got another special big man. We'll just say that.
We're just going to have to get used to seeing things like this for years to come, which I don't know how you get used to these types of things, but there was this dunk where Victor just threw that down right outside the restricted area. And my favorite part is poor Thomas Bryant's reaction. Like, just like he's just like, what do you do? Because there is nothing you can do. Like you can literally play perfect defense. Oh, I'm just going to reach over with my 8'5" or whatever it is wingspan, dunk it from the parking lot.
It's not fair.
Absolutely. And granted, not a lot of starters played in this game. However, it's not going to take long to where Victor dominating on a team like this is just going to be the routine night-to-night basis of what he actually is. And the crazy thing, Pop said he only drew up one play for him, and he scored on that play. Like all the other offense that Wemby generated, it was just pretty much authentic.
It was go get a bucket.
It was in the flow of the game.
Yeah, and I get the whole it's preseason, but this is what he's supposed to do. Like if he wasn't doing this, we talk about it. He's doing it, so we talk about it. Like he deserves credit there. Another one, Keontae George. You guys see him in Utah, middle of the first round draft pick, out of Baylor, I believe it was. I think Utah. It's going to be a lot to be Donovan Mitchell, but they got another 2-guard there. They got a franchise player. I think he's a nice player. I know. Kevin O'Connor was tweeting about him too.
Been playing pretty well too. They just have a lot of young guys.
Yeah, they do.
That are showing potential.
I like him a lot. But those are my two.
Another guy that we have to really talk about is Chet Holmgren.
Thank you.
My goodness gracious! I can't wait to watch the Rookie of the Year battle. Yes, Chet's technically the underdog with going next to Vic, but my goodness, it's going to be a fight to the death to win that Rookie of the Year award. It's a shame they both can't win.
I mean, the fact that we got to see those guys just go toe to toe in a preseason game, stupid. And I mean, the fact that imagine going 20 years ago, back to when we were watching Kevin Garnett, Shaquille O'Neal, Tim Duncan, all these more traditional bigs. Imagine showing us videos of that game and telling us that's the future. That's what bigs are going to look like in 2023.
Mm-hmm.
I would not have believed you for a millisecond, let alone now, this is our modern era version of Duncan and Kevin Garnett.
Right, and we have 3 bigs who are in their prime right now with Joker, with Giannis, and with Embiid, and to throw then those 2 guys into the mix of the the present and the future, and I guess you could say that the other guys are the present and the future as well. But just to know that the big man in positions evolve, but knowing that we are rich in good big men that can shoot the ball, that can play make, that can all the above. Our best players in the league are big guys.
Oh yeah,
basketball, man.
Yeah, the whole conversation of the big man position being dead, that died very quickly, very, 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 very quickly. I think the play that I think blew my mind the most though from Victor was specifically there was a pick and roll that he did where the point guard threw the alley-oop to Victor while he was still behind the 3-point line. He just chucked it up and Victor just ran, looked like he caught it in stride like Calvin in the end zone and just slammed. I was just like, dude, how is that possible? Like how did evolution produce this? Like even beyond basketball, just humans, just human development and science wise, what the hell are we doing here? How did we get here? It's just crazy, man. It's just crazy.
Hey,
There's really
another exciting
no-
one over in Portland. That rebuild going on. Shaden Sharp, Scoot Henderson. They got some players over there. I like that backcourt. Especially
Sharp's
Sharp,
looking
man.
better this year already.
Yeah, Sharp's going to average close to 20 this year. I believe that because he's already averaging 20 in the preseason. But trust me, he's going to get a lot more shot attempts with no Damian Lillard. And the same with Scoot Henderson. So it's a big year for those two.
And Chauncey was saying that Shaden Sharp was going to be a guy that year 2 he felt like he could break out. He was like, he said, he said he feels like he can play pretty well his rookie year, but he said, give him a year. Like he can come and really make some noise. And I think, Shaden Sharp, Scoot Henderson, DeAndre Ayton, Anthony Simons, Jeremy Grant, they have talent. And, and again, we talked about it a little before, but that's what happens when you can start your rebuild with trading a star. That's what happens when you can get, when you can get assets to start your rebuild instead of, how do I put this? The whatever you get in return for Svi, Mikhailuk, and Bruce Brown. Speaking of Bruce Brown, did you guys see like the weird, like almost kind of like shot that the Nuggets general manager kind of took at Bruce Brown?
No, I did not.
So,
how dare he?
Well, it wasn't really like a shot, but it was kind of like this weird. So, let me read it to you. Essentially, one of the general manager, Calvin Booth of the Nuggets, he did a interview with Kevin O'Connor of The Ringer, kind of just talking about the inside look of what they think that they're building. Some really interesting quotes and things in this article. Like one of the things was like how he feels like this team could win like 3 or 4 championships. Like that they're in prime position. And the big thing that really I took away from this article I thought was particularly interesting. The general manager wanted rival teams to be careful what they wished for when pursuing Bruce Brown. Quote, some of the teams were trying to get Bruce, trying to make it worth it. It's like, just be careful what you wish for. Peyton Watson's bigger. He's longer. He's more athletic. He guards better. He passes better. Like I understand what he's trying to say of like next man up. Like we have guys that can come in and, and replace his role. Like we're going to be fine. But like, I don't really know how personally I feel.
Yeah, that's
about
a shot.
Having to take unnecessary shots at a player that helped you win a championship, let alone your first championship in franchise history.
Bruce is going to impact any team he's on, including now the Pacers. Like he's a guy that can impact. Like he's not given credit for the role that he had in that championship and the role that he's going to have with whatever team he's on.
And all GMs have big egos, but that man's ego really took a shot. I mean, you have Bruce Brown. You win a championship. Bruce Brown gets paid. And you could have just simply said, you know what? We feel comfortable in who we have in-house. I'm happy for Bruce. He's going to play really well in Indiana. And we thank him for what he contributed to our championship. It's that simple. Like I could teach him a PR class. Like you don't have to add in the extra, well, this guy does all these things better. He's butthurt because A, Bruce Brown left, and B, he got paid. Yep. He got paid. And that, I mean, counting other people's bread, man, I don't know. It seems like there's a personal thing. I don't know what's going on there, but that was a little too personal, Sean. That didn't sound like he's fine. It is what it is.
Yeah. Whether it stems from that whole weird, oh, he's coming back. I'll come back if you have me on the parade. Like, I don't know if that caused some weird feelings to be had. I have no clue what's going on, but the writing was pretty clearly on the wall that this guy was going to be up for a pretty big contract. And, that even the Nuggets knew pretty well that the odds of keeping him were not going to be very high. So the fact that they even had to bring up that conversation showed that they knew that they probably weren't going to be able to keep him. And listen, I do think the Nuggets, I don't think it's going to be like a massive fall off from losing a guy like Bruce Brown because, I think they could have honestly just said, we have faith in our system. And I think they would have been totally fine with just saying that because one of the things that the Nuggets have done really well and one of the underrated parts of why they won a championship last year is because of guys like Christian Braun who came in and helped them win a playoff game. Guys who, who are super young, who are drafted later in the first round or early in the second round that they develop within system. Like, you want to talk about like the next phase of like the NBA and like what's going to start becoming super important. Like, watch out for like these teams that like, how effective they can be drafting in the, in the middle to the end of the first round, the beginning of the second round, because if you can find like pieces in there that can play, like that's real value, especially with the salary cap, the way it's about to be. Like, teams like the Lakers have got like, they've really focused in on getting players in the middle or late first round. Like
Right.
the Nuggets have made it a very big thing on trying to make sure that they can get players, because again, you're going to have a very hard time being able to pay all these quality, like guys that can fill your rotation being your team. So how are you going to get guys that can contribute? You have to get them in the draft. And so
Right.
to give the Nuggets credit in that sense, they do have a player who I think can step in and play that role comparatively well. But again, it does make you a little bit weary when you hear stuff like this, because it shows as confidence in your group, but at the same time, it can kind of also come off as being insecure a little bit about the fact that you lost Bruce Brown and the fact that, ultimately you weren't able to bring him back. Right. So it's kind of that weird duality thing. Ultimately, I still think the Nuggets are the favorite in the West until proven otherwise. As good as the Suns have looked, it's hard for me to view Jokic and those guys as, not the favorites in the West right now. But I think the Nuggets are going to have to, at a certain point, grow up into the champion that they are and stop this whole everyone's out to get us thing, this whole us versus the world mentality. It's fun for a little bit, but you guys just won the championship. Like, you are fine.
teams hungry to get you too, that you can't
Yeah.
be complacent about.
And if you're
Like,
confident,
the
you can
Suns
get
being the main one.
Yeah, I mean, if you're confident you can get another one, then Bruce Brown's fine. The man got paid. Cool. Like, if I'm confident in what I have, I'm like, yeah, happy for him. We're focused here in Denver. We're going to win another one. Like, is he that? I don't know. Denver Nuggets, man, they're not going to drop off because not having Bruce Brown. He was a valuable bench piece, but man, they got a good ball club, and they're well coached.
They have
a deep rotation.
My question is, and again, like this could be, like this could just be like thinking a little too far into the future. Nikola Jokic is 28 right now. He is, he's essentially beginning, his supermax contract. He's getting paid about 47 million this year. He's signed through 2027, 2028, and that's a player option for about 62 million. What % chance do you guys think Nikola Jokic is signing another contract after this one? Because I genuinely don't think he will. I legitimately think especially a guy like Jokic, and again, I think there's been a little bit too much made about his passion of the game. Like, there's no way that he wouldn't be here and be as skilled as he is if you didn't have passion for basketball. I think it's natural to have hobbies and things outside of it, and like having things that help you relieve stress. But at the same time, I don't necessarily get a vibe from Jokic that he's going to be playing for 10 more years.
Yeah, he seems like a guy that just kind of, when the love goes away, he'll just retire. Like, he's not. That's what I love about Nikola, is he's not affected by media. Clearly, obviously, does not give a damn, but he doesn't care what anyone thinks. He's and for the love of the game questions, that's ridiculous considering how you've seen the player develop. You've seen him grow. It's not like he walked in talented. He never got more talent. He got better as he got older. So, the Nikola thing, the only reason why he would opt out of that and try and sign a new deal is it wouldn't be Nikola. It'd have to be his agent or someone being like, listen, man, you could get paid if you opt out of this thing and re-up. I don't think Nikola, he doesn't strike me as a guy that's, hungry for any dollar amount. He just loves basketball. He gets paid millions to do it, and he can afford to do things he loves. Yeah. Guys, surprise. These guys don't go home and play more basketball and then go to bed and then wake up and play more basketball. There's other things that these guys like to do. That's why it's funny with Nikola, because he's just a normal dude, like most of these guys. But Nikola's, I feel like he doesn't really need much to be happy besides a basketball and maybe a farm.
So it's funny that you bring that up. So, like, one more story from the press conference. We were interviewing Ausar, And one of our guys, actually a friend of the podcast, Zarik, shout out to our guy Czar.
Yep.
He actually asked Ausar a question of, he's like, obviously, there's been a lot of adjustments with, with being in the NBA on the court. What's been like the biggest adjustment for you, like personally, like off the court? He was just like Ausar just paused, like honestly, like the concept of off the court did not compute to Ausar Thompson. Like, wait, that's a thing that can happen. You can be off the court. Like the dude's like a freaking gym rat, man.
Yeah,
It's
especially
insane.
as a rookie, like he's just I don't think he's done it. Have you seen he had like a house tour and or they were going through the house he was planning to buy. I bet that thing is still empty. I don't think he like seriously, like I don't think these guys even it's the same thing with Amon Ra. Like he was drafted and his house is still pretty bare, like when he records his play. Like these guys just want to play and they just want to play well. Amon Ra's trying to get paid next. Like Ausar just wants to have a great career, which I love. I love that. The guy's all about ball, but not to the point where he doesn't have a social life. At least, maybe right now he doesn't, but eventually he'll find his way. He'll be all right.
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, you have to in order to not go crazy. I mean, my gosh, the amount of commitment it takes, unreal. But guys, only a couple more things to talk about. As far as like basketball goes, again, there's a ton of players that impress. But at the end of the day, with the preseason, it is one of those things where you kind of wait to see what teams actually do when the season comes around, what players are actually in a like what players are actually going to be in the rotation, like what roles are actually going to look like, that will be when we can really start to have a little bit of deeper conversation. But that doesn't mean that there hasn't been news, there hasn't been things that have gone down in the NBA this past week. And there's actually two situations that, even though they are separate, they are similar situations that have both have developments over the last week. We'll start with Miles Bridges, because this one to me is just mind-boggling. Miles Bridges broke the court order of keeping the distance from the mother of his children, the woman that he was recorded to have beaten and abused and had to get arrested. His child was talking about how he was hitting mommy and all these types of things, and how he was even hitting them as well. Just things that you don't want to hear about a professional athlete or just a human being as a whole. And, obviously all that goes down, but then, we hear about how he breaks the court order. He apparently like smashes her windshield, all this type of stuff. We see that Miles gets arrested. The thing that was the most striking, though, is that not only as of recording have the Hornets not suspended Miles Bridges, but within 48 hours of this incident, there was footage of Miles Bridges taking shots in the practice gym. Now, guys, we talked last year about how, how he had to be released, how there was no world where he can be back in an NBA gym. I guess the Hornets have said, that we'll have him around. We don't see the problem. Like they're just straight up choosing to ignore it. And the reason why, granted, part of it, they're on their side. They don't feel like they have much of a choice because they have to maximize this window with LaMelo Ball. They don't have much other talent. Him and Miles Bridges were the two pieces that, were bringing this franchise, more towards a winning direction. But guys, if you want to see a prime example of why the Charlotte Hornets are a bottom of the barrel, absolute piece of garbage, no good, worthless organization, look no further than this. Because when you have a team that is so desperate to win that they will quite literally put morals and what is right to the side, your program's just permanently lost. It just is. I don't know what to tell you.
At what point does Adam Silver in the league step in with this? I mean, when a team isn't showing morality, can't Adam Silver trump the Hornets organization?
I mean, I would imagine that there's some form of review that's taking place right now. I would imagine Troy, that, that with there's some form of investigation that goes into that. I'm sure that, the league's, gathering more details. And I would imagine, I would imagine that something will happen, but the fact that Miles Bridges was not just full stop immediately released is telling in it of itself. The fact that he is not, the fact that he is still in the NBA today is despicable to me.
Yeah, any other respected organization would just cut ties because they know they could find another Miles Bridges. The Hornets do not feel that way. They know they are incompetent. They know, and Sean, you nailed it. They put morals to the side. And I believe this with money for Miles Bridges. Money just makes you more of what you already are. So this is clearly a character issue that Miles has had his entire life. Now with just a larger sum of money, more money, more problems. And now you're starting to see this just the horrific, disgusting things. And the Charlotte Hornets are standing there going, you know what? We're already laughed at professionally as an organization. Nah, why not? We'll just keep Miles around. Like, no, any other one, like the Pistons, for example, and we use them even for a team that hasn't had success. They're much different how they approach these things. He would be cut. The ties would be done. There would be no discussion like that. For the Hornets to even keep him on the roster, it's just bad. Like for fans too, like PR reasons. Why? Is it why?
There was actually an article that came out earlier today that I actually read that was really interesting. It comes from James Dador. He's actually a senior staff writer at SB Nation. He wrote an article today and he published it, and it says, and it's titled, "The Charlotte Hornets Killed My Fandom by Standing with Miles Bridges." And, I just want to read a little bit of it because I think, honestly, coming from a fan, someone who, knows the organization, who has much more of a, telling of the situation. I just want to read the first couple of paragraphs because I think it does a really good job, properly, setting the tone and like what actually happened. On June 28th, 2022, Miles Bridges made a choice. During an argument, the Hornets forward wrapped his hands around the throat of his ex and strangled her to the point muscles in her neck were torn. Bridges broke her wrist, her nose, fractured her eardrum, and gave her a concussion severe enough that she lost consciousness. This all occurred in front of two young children, scared and confused why daddy was hurting mommy. When police and EMS arrived at the scene, Bridges was gone, leaving his children to witness their mother be loaded into an ambulance and taken to the hospital for medical treatment. Bridges knew he would be arrested and bounced before it could happen. The LAPD issued a warrant for his arrest. And, he talks about how, there's no need for the allegedlys. This is exactly what happened. Like we have this on file. Like this has been proven in a court of law. And, he talks about, all the things, the things that, he did. And, and he talks about how, Miles Bridges made a choice. He talks about in there as well, the Charlotte Hornets also made a choice. At a certain point, we all have to choose what we can stand with and what we can't, right? And this is just one of those things where flat out, it just doesn't have a place in the league. And if you want to look at reasons why the Charlotte Hornets will always be a bottom feeder organization, it's because they do things like this.
Yeah, you're rewarding bad behavior. That's what you're doing. You're rewarding bad behavior, and you're setting an example not just for a guy like Miles Bridges, but for players on the Hornets. Where do we draw the line?
But Kai Jones, who's dealing with mental issues, who genuinely seems like he could use help, who needs someone to wrap him around the arm. No, we can't have that in the organization. But the guy who beats his wife and kids, come on down. Freaking joke, man. Gotta be kidding me. And then the other light, very similar situation. Evan Porter Jr. Earlier today, there was the proverbial, shoe to drop, in that situation. We all knew Kevin Porter Jr.'s days in the NBA were more than likely over. It was just a matter of how it was going to happen. We knew he was done with the Rockets. It was just a matter of what it was all going to look like. Well, today, that decision was made because essentially so essentially the Rockets are trading Kevin Porter Jr. and future second round picks to the Thunder, who are going to be waiving Porter Jr. immediately. And then the Thunder are going to be getting Victor Oladipo and Jeremiah Robinson Earl in the transaction. So essentially, they did exactly what we talked about, what they were going to have to do, which was they had to give up picks to get off of Kevin Porter Jr. And, as far as, where he goes from here, like what's going on with that situation, obviously I think, like there's been some developments in that case, but it's very murky waters. And as far as, like what's actually going to happen there, we have no clue. However, I think it's pretty safe to say that, Kevin Porter Jr.'s days in the NBA are over. But I think the saddest thing of it all, man, is just if you've shown a certain talent level, in the world of professional sports, there is a lot that people will forgive and try to forget.
And it depends on the severity of it. Like some things, you could attribute to, what he was young, things happen, but some things you just can't look past, and it's disgusting behavior. And that's the situation with Miles Bridges and Kevin Porter Jr. Like, especially when there's reoccurring like instances or maybe red flags, like that's different than, somebody that made a mistake when they were young and kind of turned their life around. Like these things, you fool me once, shame on you, but fool me twice, shame on me. Like if you're a terrible human being, like I blame myself. The organization should blame themselves. Why we let this guy, Kevin Porter Jr. was in Cleveland. You saw what happened there, went to Houston, played some good basketball, but then something else. Like, no, at this point, he should be blackballed. Same with Miles Bridges. Like those two, that behavior should not be tolerated. But to your point, Sean, in professional sports, not just the NBA, you look past this stuff. Like,
the Cleveland Browns gave a quarterback who was a serial sexual assaulter. It was literally proven.
There you go.
A judge that was hired independently who has experience working for federal courts was like, "Yup, he did it." He got a $230 million contract.
Yep.
And granted, like the thing that will that will immediately lose that grace is when they don't play well. And Deshaun Watson to this point has looked like garbage. And in my opinion, I think Miles Bridges, unfortunately, I think he will be better than Deshaun Watson, what it is in football right now. I still think it's going to have affected him missing an entire year of basketball. I still don't think he's ever going to be the same Miles Bridges, but and again, things could still happen. The NBA, as you said, Troy, they could still act, but ultimately, when people, when I get comments or when people come at me and go, "Oh, well, who cares if they're a nice guy?" Like how does a guy having good character, how does that add to the box score? Well, this is why it matters drafting the right people, because these are the things that can overhaul or completely ruin your entire rebuild.
All the talent in the world, and then you throw it away.
Yep, exactly. And again, every single guy that comes into this league is insanely talented. The skill, the level of skill is not very far off. What are the things that set these guys apart? It's what's in between the ears, man. The guys that can handle these situations. Being an adult is difficult, let alone being a professional athlete with tens of millions of dollars, now being like the head of their family, making decisions for multiple people in their lives. Like, you have to make sure the person that you're putting in that position in order for your team to succeed going forward is the right person. And quite frankly, the Pistons of 10 years ago probably would have signed Miles Bridges. So that's why it's important to talk about these things and to point out when the organization is doing the right thing and when they are heading in a good direction, because, again, like these are the types of, these are the types of things that when you're looking at bad organizations, this is the type of stuff that is, that is commonplace in all of them. Right. So if anything, when I saw this with the Charlotte Hornets, it was just like, okay, so this is why they're the Hornets. This is what this is why they are who they are.
Yep. Same thing with Deshaun. That's why the Browns have had little to none success, because of things like that.
Yep.
You see it with those types of organizations. It's, hey, hopefully we're gonna reach here. We're gonna do something we probably shouldn't do, but hopefully it pays off for the betterment of our organization. And typically it just, even if it doesn't work out, the risk, like from a PR standpoint, like for the Browns or for the Hornets, if Miles does play and doesn't play well, oh my gosh, it's not worth. That's why
I'm glad we're taking the long way. That's why I'm glad we're taking the long road approach of building a program, of building something that can have sustainable success, right? And I mean, if anything, I think the Lions are the proof in the pudding of why, of why you have that patience, of why you push through, because the exciting things are, like, there are exciting things that can come out of a true rebuild like that. Now, granted, it takes a long time. Lions fans might tell you, well, it only took 3 years for those guys to come in and start winning. But like, it took the Lions how many years of trial and error and banging their heads through a wall, and how many different regimes did they have to fail through to get to this point? Like, it was not just a 3-year thing. Like, the Lions had to, essentially had to put themselves through hell for the last 30 years to put themselves to be in this position. And again, we talk about, the Pistons not having all of that talent going into the rebuild. When you have an organization like even Portland, we talk about, we've talked about this before, where, even though they weren't that great, even when Dame was in house, they did get to a conference finals. They did have some playoff success, but they never they never were a true contender.
Right.
But because of the fact that they had a guy that was still extremely valuable to trade, they start their rebuild with Shaden Sharp, Scoot Henderson, DeAndre Ayton, multiple picks, Robert Williams. When you make mistakes in this league, and when you make them repeatedly, those mistakes compound on top of each other.
Yep.
And it takes a while to dig yourself out of that. But I'm telling you, man, this is going to be I firmly believe this year we're really going to start seeing some signs of life in Detroit basketball, and just in the city in general, man. Every single team is on the come up right now.
Yep.
And I think the Pistons are definitely going to cement themselves as one of those teams, without a doubt.
Amen.
So
go Pistons.
Amen, boys. I mean, guys, this is a great episode. Always is. Jeff, just good to have you back.
Miss you guys, man. I'm happy to be back.
Yeah, I mean, especially so we can get your electric bill paid, so you don't have to, so we can actually keep the lights on. But
oh wait, Sean, I think we're good.
Let there be light, son of a gun. But guys, this was another episode of From Half Court. If you like this podcast, be sure you like the video, smash that notification bell, and comment down below any thoughts, any questions, any things that you want to see us talk about on the pod. But also, sure you follow my boys on X at TroySergey44. You can also follow Jeff on X at Jeff Iafrady, and you can follow me on X at Sean Half Court. But folks, that's going to do it for today. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we will catch you guys next time for the opening night version of From Half Court. Be sure you're subscribed.